Hi folks, we are over at Covington looking at the Ancient Civilizations Garden for 6th grade. This is your Living Classroom Program Coordinator Caroline Chan, and I'm here with our amazing garden manager Suzanne Kasso. Yay, Suzanne! She's going to kind of give us a tour of the garden, how it's looking today, and maybe we get to do a little harvesting.
So we are here and we have some onions and some garlic, and you can see the onions are nice and tall, and you'll notice that they're actually putting on some flower heads here, so they're getting ready to create some additional onion seeds. That's one of the ways that onions reproduce. Another way is they will add on little clusters at the base, so they'll have like new little sets down at the base. Generally we try to harvest the onions before they put on their flower, but these aren't really bulbing out very thickly for whatever reason. I still haven't figured out exactly why that occurs. But mixed in with the onions we have some garlic, and you'll notice that the garlic isn't quite as tall, which is normal for garlic. And garlic is not necessarily ready to harvest usually around the end of May and June, so we've got another month before we'll pull this garlic, and hopefully they'll have some nice big garlic heads in the beginning of June. We'll check back then. Over here we have something that's interesting. I noticed that we've got a couple of onions that are on the ground over here, and either someone tried to pull these little onions and left them there, or when students were planting, maybe somebody dropped an onion set down here, but these have actually re-rooted into the ground, and they've been trying their best to grow outside of the bed with limited water. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Behind the onions and garlic, we have our fava beans, and you'll notice the favas look really nice and really healthy, and you'll see that we've got some flowers that are on our fava beans. These flowers get pollinated, and this is actually a good stalk to show you the different stages. So the flowers start by getting pollinated up here at the tips. This is where the plant will flower, always at the tips. And once they're pollinated, you can go down and you can see how the pollinated flowers start forming a seed pod. And you can see a seed pod here. And the seed pods develop and they get bigger and thicker. Now this one's not quite fully developed, but if we go over to this plant here, you'll see the dried up flowers, and you'll see the smaller pods getting bigger as we go down, because as the plant grows, obviously it continues to flower, and you'll see these nice big full pods. These are what we harvest. So today we actually can harvest a few of these. This is a nice perfect fava pod, and there's several plants in here that have some really, really nice fully formed pods. And what's interesting in these pods, when you open them up, you would expect them to be much like a pea, where there are beans that are inside of here, and you think that that's what you could eat, but really those seeds that are inside have another casing on here, and you need to get that second, kind of call it a second pod or second casing, off before you get to the edible, soft, juicy, lovely fava beans that we like to put in our salads and our stir fries. So you can peel this outer pod off, but to get that second shell off, you have to actually boil in some water to soften that shell, and then it will slide right off, and then you have the edible yummy fava bean that we're all after. So today we're just going to harvest some of these pods that are good to go, and I have my harvest basket here. So we'll just go through the garden, and we're going to take off all of the favas that are ready to harvest. Now, the other thing we could do with these fava pods is we could just leave them alone, and what they'll end up doing is they'll end up drying on the fava bean plant, and then we can come back later in the summer after they've all dried out, and we can harvest the pods there. At that point, they'll be dry, and they're long, and they're crinkly, and you may have seen those in your lesson, because I think we tried to show you a dried fava pod. And inside that dry pod would be the dried seeds. And those dried seeds, as you may recall, are hard and they're kind of weird looking. And those are what we put in the ground to grow fava for next year. So we'll harvest some, and we're going to actually donate these to families that might need some additional food. And we'll leave some on the plants so that we can grow seeds for next year and have fava next year. So friends, that's it here in the Covington Gardens. Our ancient sieve doing good, and we are in full fava harvest. See you later, friends.